27 years, I dreamt of you. I craved you. I missed you.
We need to finish it. For good.
I've seen all of us die. It consumes us from the inside until we don't have a choice anymore.
You lied. And I died. You lied. And I died.
Hey everybody, welcome to a bonus episode of You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And no Devon this week.
Yeah, no Devon.
Devon was too afraid to talk about this movie.
Yeah, he was.
He has a terrifying fear of clowns.
Which I know there's a name for it, but I can't remember what it is.
It's called being a chicken.
Exactly.
So when we told Devon we were doing this movie, he decided to fly to Europe.
Which was kind of...
It's weird because he left the country. Like he lives on the other side of this country and flew over us to go to Europe.
Yeah, I know, which was really funny because he didn't bring this up at all until he mentioned about the movie, and then he got all shifty-eyed and was like, well, I'm going to be out of the country. Like, yeah, okay, Devon, sure you are. And he actually is. I didn't think he was actually going to go through with it.
Yeah. Seems like a little bit of overkill to me, but hey, to each their own.
Exactly.
So anyway, we're talking about It Chapter 2, a movie that Ryan and I both just saw today in the theaters for the first time.
Yes.
So that kind of covers a lot of what we do in the first act of the podcast.
Yeah.
So
it's been a while since we've had to just do this, you and I, without having him involved.
Yeah, like usually I am turned so I can see the computer with the two screens and see him and turn to you. Right now I'm just kicked back looking at you and the heavyweights poster behind you. Yeah, I think it's been like a year.
Yeah.
Because we did La La Land in the last fall.
Yeah, it's been almost a year.
Yeah. So a throwback episode. So yeah, we're talking about It Chapter 2, the sequel to It Chapter 1.
Yes.
Because I'm surprised they haven't rebranded that one completely as It Chapter 1 by now.
You know, you're right, because I haven't seen anything saying It Chapter 1.
I would think they would have done that for the DVD, but they didn't. It was just It. So
Yeah.
I think any re-releases that they do from now on will have it as It Chapter 1, It Chapter 2.
Hopefully.
It Chapter 3, The History of Derry.
Which, if that actually does happen, I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll get into how this movie is divided later on.
Yeah.
So you're a big... I don't know if we've actually talked about It on the podcast. I didn't do the research and look. And I know we meant to.
Yeah.
Because I remember you and I were driving to Pittsburgh and we decided to do a podcast on it, and then we never did.
Yeah.
I don't know if we did after that, but I think it was, if we did, it was on the miniseries, not...
Well, I've been, because of my job, I've been listening to our podcast just to check for like sound
Yeah.
and stuff, just to re-listen to them, and it's not on there.
I don't want sound. Okay. Yeah. So I think we might have recorded something and
Yeah.
it just never got posted,
Yeah.
which happened back in the day. Now we're pretty good about getting everything up and out. So,
And not lost.
and not lost. The number of lost episodes we have from this show. Dr. Strangelove is gone.
Yeah.
Pop Star Never Stop Never Stopping is still there, but just never made it. I need to get that one out.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we do.
yeah. So it is a lost. We forgot about it. It's been 27 months since since the first one came out, and we forgot about it. But now we're here talking about It Chapter 2,
Which
so.
actually fits for the storyline.
Yeah.
We forgot about it. We encountered it the first time. We forgot. We had to be, we had to watch the second one to remind us that the first one happened.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about our history with it. So
Okay.
you're a big fan of the Tim Curry miniseries, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Huge.
Did you grow up watching that? Or
Actually, no. I've always known about it. And and I'd see like pieces of it here and there. It wasn't until I met Kristen that I actually sat down and watched it all the way through, because she actually had it on DVD, and it rarely played on TV. So like I'd catch it here, you know, like towards the end, towards the middle. I remember what I like to affectionately call the lobster scene of the TV miniseries, where they battle it in like its home.
Yeah.
At the end. And I always thought it was weird. And I was like, okay, so where's the clown?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that that's what that thing was. But like when I think of Tim Curry now, after seeing all the movies I have seen him in, like, to me, this is still his, like, people say Tim Curry, this is what I think of.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's made for TV, so it's got the corniness aspect to it that I love.
CinemaSins just did both parts of it.
Yeah.
And I watched them just for nostalgia's sake. And there's some weird choices that they made. Evidently, they wanted to make it like a 8-part miniseries, and then the budget got cut down to make it a 2-parter. So that's why there's a lot of weird choices made in that movie.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to condense things down really heavily.
Like the whole, like, we'll talk about how the miniseries ends and how It Chapter 2 ends and the book, because in the time between It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2, I read the audiobook for it.
Yeah.
It's 43 hours long, but I got through it, and I got an achievement on Audible, which I didn't even know was a thing. So I can actually talk a little bit about what happened in the book versus the movies and the miniseries. And they're all 3 are different when it comes to endings.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's my history. As with the first one, it was something that I always kind of like that I wondered about, finally saw it. And now it's one of those movies that, especially the TV miniseries, I just love watching, because it still has, even though it's corny as hell, it still has enough like horror in it for it to be interesting and kind of scary to a point. But most of it is just enjoying Curry's performance.
Tim Curry's Tim Curryness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I would have to say, I can get into that. It's one of my favorite scenes from the TV special one.
Which one?
The one where Richie is in the library waiting for Mike.
Okay.
And
the balloons.
Well, not just the balloons. Tim Curry's on the second deck of the library. Nobody else can hear him, and he's up there with the noisemaker, just saying ridiculous things to Richie that nobody else can hear, and he's just laughing. And Richie's trying to talk to the like the young librarian, and he's yelling because he has to hear himself talk. He has to yell over Pennywise, but nobody else can hear Pennywise. So he just comes off as like this really weird guy yelling in the library. And just Tim Curry's performance in that scene with the noisemaker is just like, that's Tim Curry. So
I realized something about the It miniseries, which is the most effed up thing that Pennywise has done. Mm-hmm. So there's the scene where, spoilers if you haven't seen It Chapter 2, when Bill comes to Derry and is visiting Georgie's grave, and Pennywise pops up with the empty graves dug. Yeah. But there's one filled with Stanley. Yeah. And there's a cross on it. And in the book and in the films, like they make a big deal about Stanley being Jewish. Yeah. So the fact that he put a cross is just a final like insult to Stan, which is like either a production thing that they didn't really think about, like they just kind of, it's a grave, so put a cross on there. Yeah. Or it's like somebody is like, you know what this twisted clown would do just to add insult to injury? Put a cross on his grave. Mm-hmm. Which I think is interesting because that just makes Pennywise even more evil. Well, yeah. It adds another level that you don't really think about. I feel like that puts him on the same level as the Pennywise they have in these movies. Yeah, I would say so. Because it's kind of like, I feel like with my vision of who Pennywise is,
it's really hard for me to pick which one's better. Like, I love the Tim Curry one, but at the same time, I love the one that, what's the actor's name? I can't remember the guy that plays Pennywise in the movies.
Oh, then the new one, it's Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård. It's like trying to say, who's your favorite Joker, Jack Nicholson or
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger? I had a brain fart there for a second, but it's
The-
like
the
I
correct-
like both of them for different reasons.
And you hate Jared Leto for all the right reasons.
Exactly. Also, the fact that I've never seen that one. I kept myself away from that.
Oh, you should not have reminded me of that because there's a Joker movie coming out next month.
Oh, I know.
We'll probably save that for when Birds of Prey comes out. So we do have to talk about trailers real quick because this is one that we saw in the theaters and they did some cool stuff with the trailers.
Yeah, they
today.
did.
So we saw 2 trailers that were exclusives to in-theater experiences. Tenet, the new Christopher Nolan movie, which
Yeah.
I did not expect to see that trailer because the last I heard that was only being shown in front of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood film prints. So not the digital theaters, just on film. So I did not expect to see that. So that was exciting. But the other thing that they did for it was the Birds of Prey trailer,
Which I found interesting.
Yeah. So the movie goes to open and they make you think that it's it because they have the music that from it. And then the DC logo comes up and you're like, oh yeah, wait, what? No, that's not right.
And it's real sudden too. Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, DC, like are they going to bring Pennywise as a villain into the DC universe? Which I could honestly see them doing.
Well, I mean, it's Warner Brothers. Who knows at this point?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they used the fact that Harley Quinn's leaving a clown in this one to put the Birds of Prey trailer in there.
Yeah.
Which is a clever marketing ploy. Like I would love to see that more often. Like if you're going to show me a trailer and I can only see it on the big screen, I will be okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I already saw that one on the internet, but still, it leaked at some point. So I checked it out, not realizing it was an exclusive.
Yeah.
And then we saw we'll talk. I feel like we're going to have to talk about Dr. Sleep when it comes out. I feel like that might be one that we do because we talked about The Shining.
Kristen was extremely interested.
Has she read the book?
I don't know, and we didn't talk about it after leaving the theater, but I could tell by her like body expression that she was really into.
I think we have it. If she wants to borrow it,
Okay.
Find out if she's read it.
Okay.
But yeah, Dr.
She looked
Sleep.
really interested into it.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about it. Chapter 2.
Okay.
So the Losers Club is played by adults this time.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a bunch of nobodies. Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader. What did you think of the adult cast? How do you think they did aging up these kids?
They did a really good job aging up the kids. The only adult character that I feel didn't really like line up with like who they were as a kid was Bill.
Bill Denbrough?
Yeah, and I think that just might be because of that actor's star power. I honestly think that's probably why. Because he did it because he had a great performance.
Mm-hmm.
He fit the character well. I just, knowing other stuff that he's done for this kind of a movie, especially with how it was shot, it took me a little bit to just ignore the fact of who the actor was.
Yeah, every time I saw him, I thought Professor Xavier, Split, Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah, so yeah, I see that one. Everyone, like, you had the 3 big names, which are the ones I named: Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, and Bill Hader. Jessica Chastain and Bill Hader, though, I think really fit into those parts smoothly. Mm-hmm. Because have you seen any of Bill Hader's quote unquote dramatic work?
And he's the one we were just talking about, right?
No, Bill Hader is Richie, the one with the glasses.
Oh, actually, no, I haven't seen.
Okay.
If I have, I didn't recognize him in this movie.
Okay.
because I haven't seen enough of him.
You've probably seen a lot of his comedic work, though.
He's familiar to me in comedies.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Okay.
He did a great job in this, though. Like, that was absolutely perfect. Like, that was great.
I didn't want to come into the podcast saying that he stole the show, because that's all what the reviews have been saying. Like, Bill Hader steals the movie. Bill Hader steals this movie. I laughed more at things he did in this movie than anything I've seen in theaters in 2 years.
Part of it, though, is because of his character. He is the comedian.
Yeah.
Like, Richie as a character deflects his stress, his anxiety, his fears into humor, and that's why he became a comedian to begin with. So I feel like as long as you got a good comedic actor who could play a straight role, would have done well in this film, because I feel like that's how it was written.
As soon as I heard he was cast and I had seen Barry, I knew that he was going to be good. I cannot recommend Barry to you more.
Oh, I know, because I think you've brought it up in every other podcast that we've done since Barry started.
Yes. And you still haven't watched it, so
no,
that's
haven't.
on you. Beep Ryan. All right, so Jessica Chastain, do we have anything we want to say about that? About her? I forgot that this pen talks. I keep going to click it like it's an actual pen, but instead it's a Simpson pen. You got me. So every time I click it,
Okay.
Jessica Chastain is Bev.
Yeah. What other stuff has she done? Because she looks
She
familiar
was
to me.
in Zero Dark 30. She
Okay.
was in Molly's Game, Interstellar.
I recognize her from trailers. I think that's what it is.
Have you not seen Interstellar?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's going on the list.
You got to click the Simpsons pen again.
No, I'm not. Yeah, so I remember when it came out, the first one, I was like, that girl looks a lot like Amy Adams. And everyone else kept saying, Jessica Chastain's like, no, I think they're going to go for Amy Adams. They had Jessica Chastain booked for the first one because they were going to end it with Bev answering the phone, answering Mike's phone call.
Yeah.
So
that would have been a cool way to
they
end
just
it.
couldn't get the, they couldn't work out the schedules.
That sucks.
Yeah. But
well, I felt like, and I didn't do this until after I saw the movie. I started thinking about things they did in this film that were similar to the TV series special that they did. And the one thing, because that I find a little bit interesting, is that in the TV special one, they make Beverly a bit more flirty as an adult to all the guys. Like, not overly, but just like here and there, like every male character in her had like a small flirt moment, and depending on their actual friendship, depended on how strong that flirtiness was. They didn't do that to her to this.
no. And
That was a good change.
I don't think they really did that in the book either, because that's not, with the exception of one scene when they're kids in the book.
Yeah.
There's not really that with everyone. Like everyone does say like, I love you, Bev. Like they all do have like those.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They do all love each other, and they
Yeah.
say that in the book, but they don't really. I was gonna say they don't really express it, but they do. I'm glad they left that out of this. When I heard
They didn't even mention it, which was
they
good.
didn't. So anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, there's a preteen sex orgy in the book, and we'll just leave it at that.
I could quote you on the. I could correct you technically on the term you used, but I'm not going to.
I mean, it might as well be.
It was more of a train.
Yeah.
But that happened in the book after they defeated Pennywise as kids. Stephen King has said that it was supposed to be their like loss of innocence. It was supposed to be something that went on with like losing their childhood with Pennywise. There's a reason for it.
Not a very good one.
It's not a very good one.
Okay, so there's one thing I do want to talk about this movie, and it picks up early on. Actually, no. Let's keep going with what we were doing. So let's keep going through the cast. So we have Isa Mustafa as Mike Hamlin, the librarian.
Which was good. His character and the way that he portrayed it was very similar to what I saw in the TV series.
Do you know him from anything else outside of this? You're going to say no, but you know him. Everybody knows him.
I'm pretty sure I've seen him or heard his voice, but I didn't make a connection.
Okay. When I say Old Spice guy, do you know who I'm talking about?
Not that
He
person.
is the Old Spice guy.
I'm just thinking of him on a horse on a beach now.
Yeah. He is the Old Spice guy.
But I mean, the way that he portrayed the character fit what I knew of the character from the TV series. If there was anything different in it, it probably had to do something with the book. I haven't read it or listened to it, so I can't speak to that. But I liked his character because it paralleled what happened, how he was in the TV special.
The biggest difference between the book and this is he was not at the final battle in the book.
He wasn't.
No, he was in the hospital.
Oh.
Because he gets, when the bully breaks in, he really messes him up.
Oh, okay.
So he's like hospitalized.
He's hospitalized in the, I feel like he's hospitalized in the TV series.
Yes.
Yeah, he's hospitalized in the TV series.
All right. So then we have Jay Ryan as Ben Hanscom. I haven't seen anything that this guy was in.
Speaking about...
Oh, he was on that Beauty and the Beast remake that they did on CW. He played the Beast.
Interesting. I could see him being a beast.
On the CW, yes.
I can... Okay, so one thing... so I brought this up before. My wife's uncanny ability of seeing a child actor and then seeing them in their like 40s and 50s and just knowing that that's them.
Yes.
She did that in this film. So when they introduce Ben's character as an adult, they're in a boardroom. Ben's character isn't in the boardroom. He's on like a Skyped video chat on a TV in the boardroom. But when they go to the boardroom, there's a slightly overweight adult with blonde hair talking about the blueprints. That's the actor who portrayed Ben as a kid in the TV miniseries.
Yeah. And I think he's like not well known enough that they could get away with that. If they would have put Seth Green in here, it would have taken a lot of people out of it.
Yeah.
My wife was upset. Like, I think Jay Ryan did a good job. There's part of my wife was like, why didn't they just cast Jason Ritter? Like, as an homage to his father.
I'm trying. Okay.
Jason Ritter is John Ritter's son. He's an actor. He's been on a bunch of different things.
Okay. Maybe he wasn't good enough.
I don't know if they even wanted to try to cast him, but it's kind of like that would have been a nice homage. I think this guy did good enough though. I think the most uncanny version of the adults that they did was Eddie.
Oh, that was perfect.
And the one thing that I didn't like about Eddie though is like at one point they superimposed young Eddie into his face. Like just to show you how good they did. Like, look at what we did. Like, look, they could be twins. I did not like that scene at all. It was the weirdest transition in the whole thing for me.
I could see what they were going for, though.
Yeah.
I could see what they were going for because they were trying to show that he was like having the same exact emotions at that moment.
Yeah, I guess. It was just a weird choice for me. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the kids.
Okay.
Did you get any of a like Uncanny Valley from the scenes with the kids in this one?
Valley?
Uncanny Valley.
What does that mean?
Okay, so it's the term for like when CGI looks
Okay,
weird.
I knew about this before even going to see the movie. So
Yeah.
I knew all of this.
Yeah.
I knew that it's been 2 years since they originally filmed the first one.
Yeah.
So these kids were like 13 years old. So it's been 2 years. Some of them are a foot taller. Some of them, their voices have changed.
Yeah.
Some of them, their did I say voices or face?
Voices.
Their faces have changed. I want to make sure I didn't say the same thing twice. But Richie's character, that actor,
Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things.
You could tell that, especially the bottom part of his face, underneath the glasses, like there were times when like his jawline didn't fit the size of his body, like that. But at the same time, I think they did a good job with what what they had. Yeah,
I think his face. I'm going to touch on everything you just touched on.
Yeah.
So his face looked weird to me.
Yeah.
Ben's voice seemed a little too high for me. And then Georgie, like the ghost of Georgie, was like 2 feet taller.
Yeah.
And they kind of got away with it in that scene because he's like underwater. But I was like, no, he's way too tall.
Yeah.
Like James McAvoy's up to his waist in water and Georgie is still like towering over him. Too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a little weird and kind of took me out of it. It'll be weird seeing that these scenes spliced together. Because supposedly they're doing a supercut, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found it a little off-putting in spots, but like it was mostly just like when they're alone. But when they were the group, it was fine.
Yeah, because you had the other members there to kind of like try to like distract your eye a little bit.
Yeah.
The one thing actually with the kids, and had nothing to do with the CGI or the voice enhancing, I think. The only thing that kind of threw me off where I could tell that like these kids are 2 years removed from portraying these characters was when the kid that played Eddie, when him and Richie were going at it and Eddie would like snap back, I felt like he was talking different. Like, I don't know if he was talking quicker than what he normally would, because in the first Eddie's character was more paused with his speech, where it wasn't that he was over enunciating, he was just talking at a slower rate. Yeah. And when he did talk fast, he would talk fast maybe for like 3 or 4 sentences, or it was a quick thought. Other than that, he had a normal speech speed and pattern. In this one, it felt like every time he talked, regardless of what it was or how long he was talking for, he was talking at 2 times speed. And that's the only like thing about them that kind of threw me off a little bit. But again, it was one of those things where it was like in my head, these kids are 2 years removed from playing these characters. Yeah. So like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, you should have done a better job. Like, they're kids.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that they address early on in this movie, this is what I was talking about earlier, is that Bill Denbrough cannot write a good ending to his stuff. And I feel like that was just a big meta joke about the ending of it.
Yeah.
Because even in the miniseries, you have the ending with Aldra, like Bill's wife coming out of the coma on the bike. That's how the book ends. And it's weird. Like, especially in the miniseries where she just kind of pops up for 10 minutes in the first part, 5 minutes in the second part, and then like the whole ending is just about her.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that they kind of cut that part out of this, where she comes to Maine and tries to get her husband back. I'm really glad they cut that out. I'm glad they cut out Bev's psycho husband chasing her down to Maine. Like, I'm glad they cut the stuff that they did. I'm very disappointed we did not get the talking cosmic turtle.
I feel your pain. Not really. But I want to be there for you emotionally, so.
Yeah. I just wanted to see how they would do it. Like, and I guess the answer is you can't.
No, look, there are certain things that just do not translate from book to film. There are not. There are just certain things you cannot do and have it be taken seriously. And I am fine without having the cosmic talking turtle.
That being said, I think the whole gather your tokens to throw in this fire and we'll try to destroy him thing, I think that was a good device to get, if you're going to split this movie into the way they did, like kids and then adults. I think that's the great way, because the book is so reliant on adults remembering throughout the story and like intercutting the kids with the adults.
Yeah.
I think the movie kind of suffers from losing that. But I feel like the second part tries to make up for that with the going back and exploring that period of time where the kids weren't together in the first one.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if they meant to leave that gap of like a month or two in there in the first one or not.
The way that they made this movie
Mm-hmm.
and the way they have it planned out, and the fact that, like you said, that they had casted that actress to play the adult Bev to begin with, I feel like this was what
Always
their plan was all along. Because to be honest, I mean, the first one was just purely about them as kids defeating Pennywise. And that was it. And that like month to month and a half where they didn't speak to each other, that had nothing to do with them fighting Pennywise. Now, they do refer to some things about like stuff that they experienced during that time period in like one or two sentences, but that was it. This, we actually got to see what happened.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually a little happy that Stan did blow up at his dad during his bar mitzvah.
Oh, really?
I like that scene.
Did they make reference to that in the first part?
They didn't reference that he did that.
What did they say something about his bar mitzvah?
No. As in the first one, when they get back together, like a few of them make a reference about like, man, this past month, like stuff's happened to them, but they don't really mention what happened. And then I jumped into what I liked for Stan's character that they showed in the one that we just watched.
Yeah.
Where they show him with the mic and his dad's trying to take it away, and he walks off the stage with it and drops the F-bomb in front of everybody there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite moment in chapter 2? Like your favorite like confrontation with Pennywise, I guess.
My favorite encounter with Pennywise has to be when Bev went to her old apartment.
With the naked old lady?
With the naked old lady. And it has to do with a certain actor who you may or may not know. Or
Okay.
you might. The person who they took the motion tracking off of for the old lady when she turns into like the scary old lady.
Mm-hmm.
He is a very tall, very thin guy. I don't know if he's
Toby Jones?
He was in The Conjuring too, I
Oh.
believe.
I don't know.
Okay, so in the Conjuring Annabelle like world, there's a character called the Crooked Man, and he's a very tall and very thin like demon. The actor who did the motion tracking for the Crooked Man in the whole Annabelle like the Conjuring like world, they used to do for the old lady in this.
Okay.
And it's just, I find it very intriguing and I find it very cool that somebody who might have something that might seen as like an issue uses it for their advantage. And I've seen video of this guy on set working, and I don't know if he has some type of genetic issue, but he is extremely tall, extremely thin, and they use him for stuff like that. And he's one of my favorite, like, I guess you call him like a stunt actor.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm looking at some of the other things he's done. He was in the first. He played the hobo.
Yeah.
He's also the hobo in this.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was the hobo too.
He was in. God, this is how long ago. Like, this is how fast the time has gone. The Tom Cruise Mummy also came out in 2017. Like, I completely forgot that was the same year as it.
Yeah.
He was in Alien Covenant as the Xenomorph. The Conjuring movies. A bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like he's one of those actors that looks like when they need like a special
Like,
body type.
yeah, and I never really thought about like kind of like background actors, like people that do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Until I read an article about how there's somebody in Hollywood that wants to get the best stunt coordination to be part of, I forget if it's the Oscars or the Emmys.
It would be the Oscars for Hollywood.
Yeah. And
Or for film, I should say.
yeah. And So since then, it's kind of reminded me about him. And so whenever I know he's going to be in a movie, I wait for it. And I knew that he was going to be that old woman eventually, like running out of the darkness. And just the fact that he, like, it's cool to me.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing.
I think my favorite sequence might be Richie's scenes with the Paul Bunyan.
That was cool.
Because the Paul Bunyan's in the book and they didn't do it in the miniseries. But I really liked how they got into Richie's character.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more of his backstory and like what he was going through and what he's hiding from everyone. Like, and then Pennywise saying that, I know your secret, you dirty little, like, I just thought that was fascinating. But Bill Hader like sold like the whole scene where he's like, this is not real. This is not real. Everyone behind him is just frozen solid watching what's happening.
And then before that, they were swaying with the...
Yeah. I really like that. I was looking as soon as I saw the Paul Bunyan in the trailer, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. Mm-hmm. So I was looking forward to that scene from the get-go.
Well, it's so hard to pick because they really put their all into each of the Pennywise issues. And like I said, I like the old lady one, but almost tied with it is when Bev and Ben get separated when they're in the cave. And she winds up back in the bathroom stall when they first show her, and he winds up in their like basement.
Clubhouse.
Yeah, in their clubhouse. And that whole thing, because... And it's not the fact that they set a world record for the most gallons of blood used.
It's the fact that they made a Stephen King reference inside of a Stephen King reference with a Stephen King cameo in the movie. Yeah, at one point, I don't know, I can't remember whose face it was, but one of the faces trying to break into the stall is like, here's Johnny.
Yeah.
It would be really weird if it was just Ewan McGregor, like just trying to cross promote Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that sequence too. And they did set a record for the blood. Mm-hmm. I remember when the cast was on Conan this summer promoting this at Comic-Con, they talked about how she would have to just go off set for a minute and just get covered in blood again and then come back.
Yeah.
I like the funhouse sequence with Bill, like the mirrors. Like,
oh, that was good.
Where he just kept running into glass. I was like, dude, like...
You're in a hall of mirrors. Slow down.
Yeah.
But he was panicked too, and I really feel like anybody would have been like that.
How do you feel about how they used Pennywise in this? Do you think there was enough of the clown, or not enough, too much?
I would almost say, critically speaking, I feel like they might have used him a bit too much, but at the same time, they built in the first one. They hit him. They would show half his face. They would show like a creature that he was, and then finally they would show him, and they had that huge fight scene at the end.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been kind of silly to hide him again. So even though I would kind of like critically say that maybe they probably had him in maybe one or two more scenes than what they should have, but at the same time, he's a major driving force for the storyline, and
okay, so
they wanted to have fun with them, I think. That's what they did.
Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the ritual of Chud, which is not something I thought we'd actually talk about.
Okay.
So the whole thing of going to get their tokens and then putting them together.
Yeah.
I get the sense Pennywise knew what they were doing and helped them.
Yeah.
Because like Bev's whole thing shouldn't have happened that easily. Like she should not have been able to get into that apartment.
Yeah.
With him. Like, I feel like he was egging them on knowing that it wasn't going to work. Right?
Thinking about it now, that makes sense to me.
Especially when he's like, tell him, Mike, tell him why it didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Like, he was like, oh, I'm going to have fun with this.
I'm really glad my Pennywise didn't turn into Krusty the Clown. It might by the end of this.
Remember, the guy I used to work with, the one that I used to work with, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. He does a Krusty the Clown laugh that will make the neck, that'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Can you do one?
I can't do it, but he used to do it back when we used to work for Walmart. We'd be unloading trucks, and we would get to our like nerves end with some of them, and he would just snap, and he would go through and do that laugh.
I want to talk about the score a little bit.
Okay.
There was a moment in here when I think it was when they're in the cave, or no, it's when they're in the sewers going to the cave. The score just sounded very stock music-esque. Like it just felt generic.
I didn't even notice it.
I know. It was just, it was very cartoony and took me out of it for a moment. Other than that, I really like this movie. There's a lot of, like, I did not expect to laugh as much as I did.
Oh, yeah. No, it was practically a comedy for the four of us sitting there.
Yeah.
And the people behind us were laughing as much as we were.
Yeah. I think part of, like, not all of that was even just Bill Hader. Like, the guy who plays Eddie did a great job with it, too.
Oh, one of the things that I really liked about this was that they really played into, okay, this is who these kids are, and this is what their family life is like, and this is what they deal with. And then they showed them as adults, and they showed different versions of these kids, and it was, they showed them as different versions of adults and how they dealt with those childhood issues. Eddie's character just dealt with it with being pissed off all the time. Like he was just fed up and angry about everything. So he would just go off onto people.
Yeah.
Richie was pretty much the same because he always used humor to de-stress himself. But every person became who they were because they had to fight through that adversity as kids. And I liked how they showed how that either helped them or damaged them as adults.
One thing they didn't touch on that they touch on in both the book and a little bit in the miniseries is the fact that none of them have kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that has something to do with, I guess, what they called in this, like that virus, like because of what happened to them before they aren't able to procreate. They're barons from hanging out in the barren. I think my favorite comedic moment that's not like a joke, like a reaction or anything, is after Eddie gets stabbed in the face and he's laying in the hallway with Bev.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, is it bad? And she just takes like where the wound is and pokes it together.
Yeah.
Like it was very subtle. Like it split, like it cut right after that. But she's like pushes the skin back together.
Yeah.
And then it cuts away. I feel like part of the reason this movie is so funny is, from what I understand from behind the scenes, is they had to cut Bill Hader a lot. Like his reaction shots, they cut short because he would just start laughing and smiling. Like when he gets scared, his natural reaction is to smile.
Oh no.
And my wife found a clip online after we got home, like in the final battle when it's him and Eddie, and he's like, do you think Pennywise can see us? Evidently, the actor who plays Eddie just broke right after that, and they couldn't cut all of it. So you just see him start to break, and then it cuts away really fast. So I feel like there's a lot of that in this movie, and it makes it go, like it makes the jokes go fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was a necessity for editing.
Yeah.
But it really helped the flow and tone of the movie and just become something that is positive.
It did. And I really think it was funny for the four of us too, because we all like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all wanted this movie. And there were scenes that I feel like weren't supposed to be funny that we laughed at. Like when the crab legs came out of Stanley's head. And it started crawling around the floor. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is major The Thing vibes. But at the same time, like, with Pennywise's voice and like Pennywise is laughing as this head is crawling on the floor like just like a crab. Like I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah.
And I know we weren't laughing because it was hokey. We weren't laughing because, it was supposed to be funny. We were laughing because this is what Pennywise would do. And it's gone beyond horror or being scary. I mean, it's unnerving, but at the same time, it's like, this is why we watch the movie. I mean,
and this movie doesn't rely too much on jump scares. Like, I think the biggest one is when he's with the kid with the port of wine mark on her cheek.
Oh, yeah.
and she's like, you didn't say 3. Like,
that made me jump a little bit. I feel like there were 3 major jump like things that they tried to set up. The one was that one. The second one was the woman running out from the tall, gangly woman running out of the darkness from the kitchen. And I know there's a third one, but now I can't remember it. It might have been the Doors. I forget though.
Yeah, I think it was the Pomeranian.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was the dog.
Okay. Yeah, that. Oh man,
That was perfect.
at that point they had to be like, okay, we've got Bill Hader in this. Like, let's just make it a Pomeranian. Like, that had to be something that they added later. Like, there's no way you go into this knowing that it's going to be a Pomeranian. Oh man, I really enjoyed this. I don't know how it's going to cut together with the first one, because the Uncanny Valley stuff with the kids is going to be weird.
Well, I feel like as long as they keep like, I feel like they have enough scenes for the kids. I really, really do. If they're going to do a mega cut, like what we were talking about before, or alluding to before.
Okay, so for anyone listening who doesn't know what we're talking about, the director, Andy Muschietti, has said that he's working on a supercut of Itch Chapter 1 and 2, where he's going to, I don't know how he's going to interlace them, but it's going to be one long, almost 6-hour film. It's going to incorporate a lot of deleted scenes. It's probably going to splice together the sequences like it is in the book, kind of. So yeah, that'll probably be a Blu-ray coming out soon.
I can't wait for that. But I feel like they have everything they need for the kids. I really do.
I would hope so at this point.
Yeah, and I feel like anything that they have to shoot would be with the adults.
Yeah, probably. And most of them are pretty big names, so they probably already shot it. This is already a 3-hour long movie. I don't know, like 2 hours and 49 minutes. I don't know how much they cut from this, but it's probably a good bit.
Yeah.
Did you feel like it was too long?
No.
Okay.
I would not have minded if this would have went another hour, to be perfectly honest. Like, I would have been fine with that.
There were some, like, when they're out searching for their tokens, it seemed like it went a little bit too long in spots for me.
Okay.
And that's a small issue that I have with it. Like, it just felt like it dragged on. Like, it was just kind of like James McAvoy yelling at a sewer grate for a little bit. But yeah, Pennywise had to know what they were doing and knew they were going to fail, because why else would he give him back at the boat?
Gave him back the boat, let Bev find her cigarettes and pull them.
Let Richie into the theater that hasn't been open since You've Got Mail came out.
Exactly. That was funny. Is that why you two were laughing?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to be sure. I thought so. Like it's like I'm sitting there watching the movie and they show Richie walk over to the Street Fighter arcade machine, and I just hear you two start giggling. And I looked over and I looked at the screen, like there's nothing really funny going on. And then that's when I noticed the poster behind his shoulder. I'm like, they're laughing at the You Got Mail poster.
Yep. That's one of those movies that we just go to sometimes where it's like, you want to watch You've Got Mail? Yeah, let's watch You've Got Mail.
See, ours is Sleepless in Seattle.
Well, we can't be friends anymore. No, I'm kidding. What makes it even funnier is, like, at the beginning, the guy who gets killed was like, Meg Ryan called. She wants her wig back.
I was so happy that they opened the movie that way.
How so? Like they true to the book?
I know from Kristen reading the book. I don't know if she ever finished it because of how long it is, but she's definitely gotten through at least half of it.
I was gonna say that's the first chapter. So
yeah, just the fact that they had that couple and they had them get attacked, and I know in the book they don't show. In the book, they don't describe Pennywise actually attacking the guy. They just talk about what the body looked like after the fact, and I like what they did. I really, really do.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that they just didn't have like a floating "I love dairy" balloon, like that. How Mike found a popped one on a bush and he flipped it over and it said "I heart dairy." Like I loved how they opened it that way, and just there were subtle things like that, like stuff that I knew from the book that they did, and stuff that I really liked from the miniseries that they kind of alluded to. Like I really, really love, and I'm pretty sure that it's the same way in the book, how the restaurant's described with like the red, like kind of like whole like divider wall thing that they had set up. Like I really liked how they did that. Like there were things that they didn't shy away from, even if it looked aesthetically not pleasing. Yeah. Because that's what was in the book. That was the surroundings.
What I really enjoyed the Chinese food scene, because it felt like a group of friends.
Oh, it was, yeah.
It just felt like you were part of the gang. Everyone like giving each other shit. Mostly Richie to Eddie, but still. No, I really enjoyed that scene, and it like a Chinese restaurant's a Chinese restaurant at a certain point, but still.
The one thing that and Kristen loved the movie, like she was completely pleased with it, like 100%. The only critical thing that she didn't really get was when the fortune cookie started to hatch. Like there are certain things. There's the claw. There's the dead baby bird. There's the like hook or bat wing thing. Yeah. What was with the lobster baby thing?
I don't know.
Because I didn't understand that either. And that was the one thing she was like, she didn't like get the whole like baby headed lobster.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. I'm not sure what to tell you there. Yeah. Okay, so there's two more things I want to bring up. So Bill finding silver in the window.
Yes.
That is in the book.
Okay.
I did not expect a cameo from Stephen King.
Did Stephen King cameo himself in the book?
No.
Darn it. That would have been funny.
I don't think so. I mean...
He could have in his own mind.
I like that they had Stephen King even call him out on the ending. Like that's even I feel like that's him saying like, yeah, the ending of this is a little weird. But I guess he only does, Anna was saying he only does cameos in films that he likes.
Yeah.
So mostly sequels. I was like, what if this is the start of the Stephen King cinematic universe? And then we see him again in Dr. Sleep.
That would be cool. I just don't know how much, because this could be half like I don't really know 100% where my opinion's coming from, because I just can't get to that right. I don't know why I can't get to that right now, but anyway, I'm not sure how much I would like authors starting to do that. I'm not sure how much I would like it, because Albert Hitchcock did that in the movies that he made. He put himself in for cameos, but that was Albert Hitchcock.
Alfred.
Hitchcock.
Yeah.
It was Hitchcock, and he's so important to films. And then he had Stanley. Yeah. And what he meant to just the superhero culture and Marvel and everything. And I guess Stephen King is enough of a genre difference, I think. He's a little too close to Hitchcock, though, but it's been, 60 years, 40 years? Yeah. So, I mean, maybe it's time. It's just, I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure if I want to be watching movies left and right and having cameos of the original, like everybody doing it. I might be okay with it. I don't know.
I really hope that there is a cameo of him in Dr. Sleep when they go to Kubrick's Overlook Hotel and he just walks in. He's like, I've never liked this place, and just leaves.
Okay. That would, depending on the cameo, I would be 100% fine with it.
I don't think that'll happen, but I feel like a Stephen King cinematic universe would work if they could just get the movies right.
True.
Because Dark Tower should have worked, but it didn't.
I wonder if maybe because he doesn't like a lot of his stuff that gets turned into movies.
Mostly The Shining, but yeah.
Yeah.
He's always wary of all of it, so.
Which I don't blame him.
Anyway, it was a nice cameo.
Oh, it was fun. It was great.
Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is the final confrontation with Pennywise. The whole, you're a clown, you're a clown, you're a clown, you're a clown. And then he shrivels up. And when he's shriveling up, I just couldn't stop thinking of Zordon in a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. Do you remember in that movie? You've seen this movie, right?
Yeah.
So when Ivan Ooze wrecks Zordon's tube.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's just kind of laying there in this sack, all shriveled and old. That's all I could think of when I saw Pennywise when they defeated him.
My thing was, I was upset that Pennywise, because he was getting weaker and weaker and weaker, I was upset at the fact that like he didn't change his face. Like I was really hoping to get like what it actually looked like facially. Even I was really hoping that I wasn't going to get the lobster monster that we got in the TV series. But at the same time, I really would have wished it to have like gone to like its natural form.
Yeah.
Or to what it's like. Because I know the deadlights, the 3 balls of light, that's its actual beam. That's what this thing actually is.
Yeah.
The physical form it takes is just the physical form it takes. But I would have really liked to see what the original form it took was. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Not that the lobster creature in the TV series was the first form.
I mean, I think you kind of get that in the hallucination scene.
Well, yeah.
But that went so quickly, you have to like pause. And
yeah, I
honestly think they will make a third one, and it's going to be like an anthology film of just the history of Pennywise, the history of Derry. Because there's a lot in the book that they didn't touch on. There's a whole gang getting slaughtered. There's the black hole and Dick Halloran from The Shining,
which they kind of allude to again. The gang, I believe, is that mural that's on the alley wall. That's by the slaughterhouse that they that where Mike almost gets run over by the bully.
Yeah.
In the first it, Bill's character rides by it on Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Or whatever, Silver, whatever. Hi-O Silver.
He was in X-Men. Quicksilver's in X-Men. I get where you're coming from. But no, I think between the gang slaughter, the Ironworks explosion on Easter, the black spot, I think there's a lot there that you can cover and would make an interesting, maybe not 3-hour film, but like chunks of a 2-hour movie. And maybe that's stuff that I know they already shot, like the origins of Pennywise the Clown. Yeah. So maybe that makes it into the extended cut.
I would really, really like to see more about who the guy, like the actual guy Pennywise, that the Deadlights either possessed his body or made a copy of him. Because they alluded to that in Bev's apartment when she was trying to run away. They showed the guy painting his face, and it was Pennywise. It was Skarsgård. And did I say his last name right?
You
Skarsgård?
Did. Good for you. You get a sticker.
Gold star.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because the Dr. Sleep trailer before it. I got real Jack Nicholson vibes from him with the big forehead and like the receding hairline.
It would explain the receding hairline as he's being a clown.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say that I was very relieved about in this film, and I know I mentioned this as we were leaving the theater, but I'm really happy that they didn't make the door into the cave like the way into the cave a little troll door. That was in the TV miniseries. For people that may have not seen the TV miniseries, when they go down through the sewer and they get to the cave where it is hiding, in the TV miniseries, there's a little door that's the size for a troll, and it's got candles around it, and it looks very almost Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Dead-ish, like silliness. And they open it up and crawl through it, and then they have their giant fight scene. I like in this that it was just a trap door underneath his wagon with a marker on it. Like, to me, that made more sense than having like a Halloween prop. Like
something you could buy at Target right now for Halloween decoration. All right. Any other thoughts on it?
I like that they kept that Richie, when he drove to Derry in the TV miniseries, he drove a red Mustang, a classic red Mustang. In the new one, in this one, he's driving a brand new Mustang. I liked how they kept the vehicle for him the same.
You remind me of something we didn't touch on at all, and that's Richie and Eddie's death.
Yes.
When I was reading the book, I didn't pick up on the gay subtext, but it was a 43-hour book. So I really liked it in this film, though. Like, just seeing him like be brought down by that in such a way. And they did a good job of kind of hiding it. Like, not really hiding it, but like leaving you wondering who he put on that post until the end. Because I thought it was going to be Stanley.
Well,
because in the flashback they show him at like the bar mitzvah and all of that, and proud of him for standing up and
Well, one of the things that I really liked and what got me thinking about that undertone for his character was when he was in the arcade and they showed that back and forth between that what's the name of the bully?
Oh, Bowers,
like nephew or cousin, and like, you need to get out of here, like, you homo and stuff like that. And he ran, but the look on his face when they did that scene and the look on his face, I was thinking to myself, like, is this character actually gay?
Yeah.
Because he's one of the few ones that is not in a relationship.
Yeah.
And they never talk about him and women at all. And in fact, in the TV show, they make him out to be straight. And then they did the whole thing with Pennywise going like, I know your secret. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't know this about this character. This is actually really cool.
Yeah.
And then when they showed the E on the post for Eddie, I was like, oh, I like his character even more now because this just puts another dimension to it.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting that knowing that about the character and that's how they wanted to show him in this series, like going back and rewatching one now.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think Bill Hader did a great job.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not Oscar worthy, but maybe a Golden Globe.
Yeah.
I can see a Golden Globe.
What'd you think of Bowers in this?
Oh, what a waste. I felt the same way in the book. Like, he shows up for 2 scenes and then dies. Like, that's it. Like, he breaks out, he stabs Eddie, and then he attacks Mike. Yeah. And it's like, okay, this is not necessary. And I knew from the first one, I was like, wait, he's supposed to come back. Why is he dead now? Because he kind of falls down the well.
Yeah.
And then in this one, they just like shoot him out of the sewer.
Yeah.
And I was like,
with the rest of the dead bodies.
Yeah. So when that happened, I wasn't sure if that was present day or back in the 80s.
Yeah. So
it was nice that it was back in the 80s. It's like, you didn't save his, like, preserve him for that long.
Yeah, no. I did like, though, how they brought back his buddy, and he was the one that gave him his knife back.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it is in the book. But him and his buddy are a little bit more than buddies in the book.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things about his friend that I really liked was I liked that character in the first one. Just because out of Bowers and all of the kids, he came across as the most 80s. with the long hair and the goofy shirt and the bracelets. Like, he came across as the most 80s character in the first movie.
I will say, I think my favorite Bowers part is when Eddie's like, it's not the 80s anymore. Cut the fucking mullet.
That was great. It was awesome.
That was the best joke that wasn't Bill Hader's in the whole thing.
You mentioned before about how you weren't sure if when Bowers came out of the sewer, if it was back in the 80s or present time. I think I might have told you this when we left the theater. I was afraid for a split second at the end of this movie when they're staring into the glass at the shop on Derry after everything happened, and they're walking out and they look at themselves, and in the reflection of the glass, it's them from the 80s and their bikes. And then the camera panned from the reflection back to the street, and it was them on their bikes. And I was thinking to myself, oh no, defeating Pennywise should not have reverted them back to the 80s, like their future selves, you know, kind of like a Jumanji type deal, how like the game's over and all of a sudden they revert back to being kids from where they started playing the game. For a split second, I thought that that's how they were going to end the film. But luckily, it was just them showing them doing the same thing they were doing as adults, as kids, after the first time that they fought Pennywise. Yeah. For a split second, I was about to hate this movie.
Yeah, that would have been bad. Luckily, that's a better ending than that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about?
I don't want to get too far into this, simply because we talk about this movie for as long as the movie is.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, I'm going to end this with a question. In your head, can you accept that it and The Shining take place in the same universe?
I can. I can take this in the same universe if in The Shining it is supernatural. Okay. And not just in their heads.
I think Dr. Sleep is going to show you that it is supernatural.
Good, as it should.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Warner Brothers has produced both of these movies. That's where we got the trailer in front of it. It'd be nice if they could get a franchise universe off the ground.
Oh, it would be.
That works and doesn't have two different Batman.
Well, I would also like to see a decent Pet Sematary movie.
Was the one that just came out bad?
I wasn't a fan of it.
Okay. That's probably going to be the best you get. I don't think they're going to touch it again for another 20 years.
To be perfectly honest, I just don't think that story is good for film.
Yeah.
Or it's not. It's not good for film and TV or movie. It's not.
Yeah. All right, so that's it for today. Tune in later this week when we have a complete change of pace and talk about the Weird Al Yankovic film UHF.
I cannot wait for that one.
Yeah, Devon will be back for that one. So if you're a friend of Devon's and are listening to this and still stuck around for the two of us, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is what the show used to be.
You also have a much thicker spine than he does.
Yes. He couldn't stand it.
No.
Nope. I've been making it puns all day. It's been bad.
By the way, speaking of Stanley, I liked what they did to his character at the end with the letters.
I like that too. That's a much better ending.
I love that for his character, because I feel like in the TV miniseries it was just he was afraid, and that's why he did it. It was it that made him do it. I like how it was a choice and he was being brave. Like,
yeah,
I feel like it was still the wrong choice, but he had a good reason behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too. I need to watch it again just to get a better feel for it. But no, I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for you have to watch this podcast, I'm Alan.
And I'm Ryan.
And see you later, folks.
I know your secret, your dirty little secret. Oh, I know your secret, your dirty little secret.